it is a mega line, and one that realistically, or at least in my experience, just doesn't really exist in Mother Nature out there.
What's Tribe? Probably the hardest trad route in the world. This is Jacopo Larcher from Italy, one of the leading trad climbers of his generation. In 2019, after 6 years of projecting, he sent Tribe.
Yeah, for me it's a really special, or it was a really special line, and invested so much time to do it. It's something like really meaningful for me.
The impossible was suddenly possible. James Pearson was the next to step up and try.
So what is it that actually inspired me to climb Tribe? I guess I should probably say Jacopo's journey on the route, which was actually, honestly, very inspirational. The amount of commitment and courage that it took for him to start trying that thing in the first place when, ultimately we all thought that it was potentially impossible. And to keep on trying it day in, day out when, maybe you don't manage to do the moves and you still don't know if you're battling against something that's just not realistically possible or if it was just a bad day. There's so many things that make trying a first ascent way harder than doing a first repeat. And the fact that he managed to stick with it for all those years is super inspirational.
The route is sustained and hard, protected only by trad gear. With difficulties possibly up to 9A or 514D, they had to break it into sections.
So I think the crux section is actually pretty safe. Especially like the first boulder is protected by really like big and bomber cams, and the second crux is protected by okay cams. So I was really I felt safe in that section. The scariest part was the first section, which was also the easiest one. And the first piece of gear is quite high up, so I used some crash pads. The top out, so after you reach the final jog, let's say, is protected just by some small ball nuts. So you don't really want to fall there. I don't think you will hit the ground, just go for a really big ride.
As James spent time on the route, he realised that ascend might be possible sooner than he thought.
Actually, the day of the send wasn't supposed to be the day of the send at all. It's definitely kind of my climbing style not to try to put too much pressure on myself, otherwise I basically just crumble underneath it. And so even though the trip to Italy in the first place was only one to go and try the moves and see if it was, realistic to think about Tribe as a long-term project, when I started to actually manage to do the moves pretty quickly and then even got on lead and made some relatively good red points early on.
James's trip to Cadresse was never intended to be one where he would send the route. It was mainly to check the moves to see if he could do them.
The pressure started to build up, and although I never in a million years thought I would do it on this trip, I knew that it was possible, and somehow that made it just that, little bit harder. So when it came down to the final day, it was supposed to be our final day in Cadresse. It was supposed to be raining later that afternoon. It was kind of a miserable, overcast day. We really thought nothing of it, and we just planned to go up there and take down the statics and clean the route. I'd been visualizing the whole night before, because actually visualization, it sounds probably a bit crazy, but it's something that Caroline has been really working on with me over the years and helps me a lot. I've been visualizing the idea of basically climbing the route without really caring too much about climbing the route, if that makes any sense. Because if I get somewhere and I'm like, okay, now's the time, don't drop it, you've just gone through the crux, you've got to go to the top, for sure I'll fall off. And actually that already happened on maybe 2 or 3 lead attempts earlier. So this time I'd got to the crux in my head and I was just carrying it to the next move and the next move and the next move and the next move, getting to the top jug and not even celebrating, just carrying on climbing like it was just, a random day at the crag.
I basically started to try it when I got into trad climbing. So at the beginning it felt like something impossible, super scary, and I was sure that I will never I couldn't fall on that route because it would be too dangerous. And year after year, I realized that actually the route wasn't so dangerous, but it was just really hard.
How do you even grade a route like Tribe? Perhaps we need to be left with some mystery.
Like, I invested so much time in it and had to try really, really hard. And I'm sure that's the hardest thing I've done so far.
It's definitely the hardest series of moves I've ever done on a tri route, and I struggle to really remember a sport route, even with the hardest series of moves that I've done or even tried. So it's, definitely up there. But to put a specific number on it, to really say that all of that climbing boils down to this, I'm not super comfortable with that.
Pretty cool. Stay focused, it's not finished.
Just like Jacopo, and I guess most people thought Jacopo was not grading it for exactly the reasons I've just shared with you, that it was super difficult, he was maybe uncomfortable putting this one number on it. I spoke to him the other day and he told me that the real reason he didn't want to grade it is because he didn't want all of his experience, all of his journey to climb this route, all of the wonderful things about that line to kind of end up just being summarized by another number. And we see it all the time, person X climbs route Y graded Z, and it's just kind of boring, and it takes a lot away from the climbs themselves. And I would love people to actually talk more about the route and more about why it's so special to Jacopo and now to me, and why it might motivate other people now to come and try it in the future, than just to say, oh, is that really a hard this or an easy that or whatever. Somehow Tribe is just this perfect combination of hard moves, rests, and amazing, amazing gear. It really, really is a wonder.
Jacopo Larcher made the first ascent in March 2019. James Pearson was the first to repeat his masterpiece in October 2020.